Good morning, everybody. Thank you for taking the time to join us for the Zeald webinar series, Keep Calm and Get Digital. It's December and things are really getting busy, so I really do appreciate your time and joining us today. My name is Rhonda and I'm going to be your moderator for today's webinar. Every week we have been discovering new challenges happening in the marketplace, and we've been paying attention to these and designing these webinars to try and help you through everything that's been going on. We've had some amazing topics over the last 6 months, and we've had some awesome feedback that they have been helpful. Today, our topic is a wrap-up of 2020 and predictions for 2021, Zeald, as part of our Zeald webinar series. So today is our very last webinar for the year, and we thought it was a great opportunity to just reflect on what we've learnt from the last year and to help us to move through to 2021 with style. I'm joined today by Lisa Mayer and Jara Borman. Jara is an agency director here at Zeald. He has been a leader in the media and digital industry for many years, so has a wealth of knowledge and experience to share with us today. And
Morning,
Lisa
Rhonda.
is, hi Jara. Lisa is our client services manager and has had a varied background working for Zeald and for many other companies. But particularly she's helped support a lot of SME over the years get online and get great business results. Welcome, Lisa.
Thanks, Rhonda. Glad to be here.
Before we start, just a little bit of housekeeping. If you can't hear anything, there's some toggles to the bottom left that you can play around with till you can hear us. If you have a question, there are some sections just down on the bottom of your screen where you can put a comment in, or you can raise your hand, but the raise your hand does bring you in live. And if there's anything that you missed during the session, don't panic. We are posting these webinars up on our webinar library, and we also do email them out to any registrants. And of course, feel free to share them with anybody. But we do welcome your questions through the session. If you do have questions, pop them into that question box down the bottom. And at the very end, we'll also have some time for questions for both Lisa and Jara as well. But do feel free to post them as we're going through. But for now, I'm going to hand the time over to Lisa.
Thanks, Rhonda. So welcome everyone today. Like Rhonda said, we're doing a wrap up of 2020 and predictions for 2021. I'm not going to spend too long on the wrap up of 2020 because I think we know it's all been a hard year. It's been one where we've all had to adapt, evolve and survive to continue forward with our businesses. So we'll just crack into it. I'll just go through this. So yeah, really we're going to cover off COVID-19, how industries have been affected and what that's done with online shopping and consumption of digital content. And then we're going to head into the 2021 digital trends. So shoppable posts, exclusive access to products and services, non-targeted advertising, reinvented tracking, brand loyalty and social media marketing. Oh, and marketing automation and voice search. So COVID-19, as we're all aware, is a pandemic that has spread worldwide and continues to affect many small and medium-sized businesses globally. Although I know that New Zealand's a bit out of that space now, we still have industries that are affected due to our borders being closed and also people unable to get their stock in from overseas because those countries are also affected. So just a bit of the timeline. So 19th of March, we closed all our borders. And on the 25th of March, we entered alert level 4, which gave us to the 27th of April, where we did reduce to alert level 3, which was a good time for a lot of businesses as they were able to reopen at that stage. 13th of May, we then entered level 2, and then on the 8th of June, I think we all had a slight relief when we were able to enter alert level 1.
Oh, that was a good day, wasn't it?
Definitely, but unfortunately it didn't last too long. We didn't learn our lesson the first time. So then on the 12th of August, Auckland enters COVID level alert level 3, and the rest of the country moves to alert level 2. I remember at that time, I think still in Tauranga, because you guys were still having meetings.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
a bit weird, really. Like everyone in Auckland's kind of locked down, and we're still able to go and meet with people. So yeah,
Yes.
it was a bit of a weird situation, wasn't it?
Yes. No, definitely. And
It was
then on the
less handshaking, and lots of scanning COVID tracer at
yes.
QR
Yeah.
codes.
Definitely, still see that happen a lot today too. Then on the 31st of August, not Auckland, Auckland enters COVID-19 alert level 2 with some extra restrictions on social gatherings. So our funerals, tangihangas, and rest of New Zealand remains at alert level 2. Then all the regions in New Zealand except Auckland enter alert level 1 on the 22nd of September, and then on the 24th of September, Auckland enters alert level 2 without the extra restrictions on gatherings. And then we finally joined the rest of New Zealand on the 8th of October, where we're enter alert level 1 again. So that's just a bit of a timeline. I know and I think it just shows the ups and downs businesses have had to go through this year. And we've always had to be alert, we've always had to be adaptable and be working out ways that we can assist our business through these different alert levels. So
Speaking of that, sorry, Lisa, I've got a stat for you from March when all of that started through to now, and
yes.
the numbers 44. Any ideas what that might be? I'll put you on the spot. Sorry, I could tell
Yeah,
you
I'm
straight away.
like
I could tell you straight
44.
away. No, that's this is the 44th webinar that we've done since we started them in March,
Ah,
when we helped businesses with. That was one of our responses to
wow.
COVID when it first hit in March. We started doing bi-weekly webinars just to try and help everybody out like this. Like I'm sure a lot of the people who've joined us today have been to them before. So yeah, we're up to 44. I thought that was pretty staggering.
That's
So
a
that's
lot.
my little contribution there
Yeah,
to the stats over that period.
yeah. Almost one a week for the year when it was a
Yeah.
bit unplanned at the start as well. So, wow, amazing effort. Um, so yeah, no, moving on, and like Jared touched on, the part of doing the webinars was to help industries that were affected and ways that they can move online and get digital basically. So the industries we know that were most affected are hospitality, events, and travel. So I mean, there's I will say very blanket. All industries were affected one way or another, but these were in particular ones that felt it a lot. And given that travel's quite big in New Zealand, that's a huge aspect of it. But also other industries, so for example, manufacturing and construction also suffered as consumer demands dropped. And also they weren't able to have as many people on site, or they weren't able to get materials in order to create what they do. So that's just some other areas of industries that were affected. But what this meant is a huge change in digital. And it's not so much that it was like the birth of it. It was us coming around to go, we need to go digital. It was more us rapidly moving towards going digital a lot sooner than what we would have. So adapting this model. So for online shopping, online spending in New Zealand between January to June 30 this year was 30% higher compared to same months last year. So that's a massive increase. There was a 71 increase in online shopping habits of consumers, in particular in Taranaki, Northland, and Gisborne. So this is from the NZ Post reports that they've been doing this year. There was a 62% increase in shoppers over 60-year-olds. So I think for them, a lot of it was first-time shopping, and also because we know that they were in a higher risk category. So it meant doing food shopping online or doing other shopping online in order to protect themselves.
Absolutely. I had my next door neighbours that are in their 70s in March, right before that first lockdown, came over and knocked on the door as I'm setting up the office at home, because that's what we were having to do at the time. And she came in and said, "Can you help me sign up for supermarket shopping online?" And so I had to help her validate her address and everything like that. She'd never done it before, but it was something that was being kind of forced on her, and as part of that. And so yeah, we've got this massive increase in people shopping over 60 years old, and yeah, a lot of them it was their first time, and there was a few people like myself out there helping them get started. Well, just as a little bit of extra detail around this from our own internal modelling at Zeald, what we saw as being happening over the next 4 to 5 years was essentially forced on people, and they all had to do it within approximately the 6 months during that COVID period. So to give you an idea of the rate of change that was forced on businesses and consumers in New Zealand, that just our own modelling projected that to happen in about 4 to 5 years, and it had to happen in that very short time frame. So.
Definitely. And I mean, that's huge to
Yeah,
kind
it
of
really
do
is.
4 to 5 years work in a few months,
Yep.
to get your business where it needed to be. That's huge. So, a big congratulations to all businesses that undertook that as well,
Mhm.
because we know how much effort that was. So, it's also, more than 170,000 New Zealanders shopped online for the first time during the first half of the year. So, there was a huge increase in people that were online, and then more consumers, and I think this is something we saw so much of, were buying local. So CNZ by NZ, people were now very strongly promoting New Zealand. I'm New Zealand owned, I'm New Zealand operated. That kind of sentiment really came through. And there was a Facebook group created, which grew to, I forget how many, was it 500,000 in the end, or if
That's
not more now?
huge.
That was all about people promoting their NZ businesses, to get support and keep businesses going. Um, and then NZ Post, just as an extra bit, say they were receiving an average of 200 parcels per minute. So that's
Yeah.
a lot of parcels going around. And that's just NZ Post. I mean, we
Yeah.
have maybe another 5, 6 courier companies that would also be seeing an influx of parcels coming in. So for what does this mean for e-commerce revenue this year? We saw a 189% increase in e-commerce sales recorded in April 2020 this year compared to last year. Again, that's almost 200% increase. So people were doubling what they were doing last year. An 8.2% increase, so $472 million in spending in retail industries online. So again, massive. People still wanted to spend money. That's always a good sign. And then non-retail, so excluding services though, so still e-commerce, industries were down by 13%. That's 244 million. And that would have been because it wasn't, the necessary needs that people had immediately, and would affect quite a few businesses. NZ cardholders made 154 million transactions in October 2020. So, it's just showing that even though we're out of a lockdown, we're now in a space where we are able to go to the shops more, we are able to do other things, get out and about. People are still using online as a main source to either browse or buy. I know one for me, I will browse online, and if I don't really want to pay the shipping, because that's something that's hard for me to get over sometimes, I'll then go to the store, but I know exactly what I want and where to go, so I'm not having to spend too much time in the shop. The marketing trends we saw, to cover off some, so digital giants like Google and Facebook were cooperating with global efforts to make contact tracing faster and prevent information about the virus, because again, that was a huge issue we were having. Google was removing any content on YouTube that claims to prevent the coronavirus in place of seeking medical advice. And it was also blocking all ads capitalizing on coronavirus. And the same for Facebook. They were also blocking anyone running ads to exploit the situation. So, with all the good that there is and everyone trying to make their best efforts, we also had some bigger companies making sure that the wrong people weren't getting the attention, which is awesome to see. Other marketing trends is that brands did decrease their advertising spend a little. So global ad spend reduced by 8.1% in 2020 compared to last year. And some of that's because purely they couldn't trade at all. So we obviously had alert level 4 where we had no one being able to trade unless you were an essential service, which did mean places like McDonald's, Burger King, etc., that even they couldn't open, so it didn't matter how big or small you were, people did have to stop trading at points throughout the year.
And globally, those lockdowns are still ongoing as well, right? So we had a smaller window, but there's a lot of countries where the restrictions are continuing, and in some cases should definitely have been put in place in the first place. Looking at you, America.
Well,
but yeah, anyway.
Yeah. What was it? It was only a week or two ago where we've been said we had the best response. So, I mean, of course, every company, every country is different. So, yeah, I think that's a bit of a hard thing to put out there. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad we did what we did in one way or another. So businesses are also going back to the basic elements of marketing. So that's building trust, purpose, and service with their customers. So, and that trust and credibility, we've done a whole webinar on it because it is very important. People buy from brands they trust, and they also promote those brands to their friends and family. And that's still, referrals is still a very large part of marketing. And even though, you've got to get the people in first, once you have them, you've got to keep them. And that's where your trust, purpose, and service comes in. Empathy and transparency was used a lot to connect with customers, and this just goes back to our CNZ by NZ sentiment. Very much this whole, we want to support New Zealand, we want New Zealand to come out of this the best. Some other examples of that was, Burger King suggesting you buy from other places, that we want everyone to be trying to share because we're all going through this hard time together.
I thought that was a brilliant move from a marketing point of view, but just also from like everyone getting together and helping each other through this crisis that we've had. It was just such a great reflection of the positive sentiment that a lot of businesses took to the crisis. And so, yeah, I just love that as an example. I remember smiling when I saw that.
Definitely. And I think coming from that, so, like we touched on, you use your advertising to get people in the door, and then you build on that trust. So then brands who invested in ensuring a good online purchasing journey, which is very important for their customers, then benefited the most. So making it easy to buy, making it a very clear pathway to purchase, that's the easiest. I know Black Friday sales, I must admit, I bought quite a bit. But I struggled though on websites where, and it's the simplest of things, I went and I said add to cart, and on most websites the cart drops down and shows it's added, or it pops up and it shows it's added. On this one site it wasn't, and I couldn't find my cart, and I didn't know how to get to checkout, and I actually found it really, really hard to purchase what I wanted to purchase, and I didn't end up going somewhere else. So thinking about how your customer experiences the journey on your website is very important.
Yeah, what one thing just on that, what we've noticed is that there has a little bit of a digital divide that's starting to really become apparent within the New Zealand marketplace. And so those businesses that had a really solid e-commerce or digital commerce strategy going into lockdown actually came out of the lockdown and bounced back and really accelerated in their growth, because they were able to trade effectively through all the different alert levels. And so it did really make quite a big gap between those businesses that already had a solution in place and those that didn't. So there's a lot of people trying to catch up at the moment, but what we did see through that period is those, as you rightly point out, that had a really good shopping process and had it all mapped out, those that had taken the time to do that in advance, they really did very well through that period, when we actually had some businesses having to turn off their websites because they just got overloaded with orders. Just an indication of those that had it sorted have started to accelerate really, really quickly. And that's one thing that does concern me a little bit about the New Zealand market at the moment, is that gap, that widening gap between those that have got this sorted and those that don't.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Trying to address with Gem, right? So
yeah, definitely. So now I guess we're moving a bit more into the fun stuff. So we're looking ahead, looking to what the future may bring, and hopefully you'll get to pick up some ideas from this space. So for this, the 2021 digital trends. So first up, we have shoppable posts. So what that is people scrolling through social media, and rather having to go to your website, they actually can start purchasing off the post. Well, they click on the post and it says want to buy this, and it takes you straight to the product. So online shopping experience will become even more convenient for consumers next year, as shoppable posts are expected to reach its peak next year. So it's already been introduced by Instagram and YouTube this year, but our prediction is that you'll start seeing it across other platforms next year, just like you did with the whole stories thing. It started off Facebook, Instagram. It's now even on Spotify. So it's certainly coming across quite a lot of different media platforms. So what this is, consumers should then be able to easily add products they see on social media directly to their cart, and then painlessly send them to checkout. So it's again thinking of that consumer journey. So it might not just be shoppable posts that you need to consider here, it's that customer journey that you're really thinking of. And then the posts or videos will then no longer connect to a website. So this is just going a bit further, as it often does now. And there would be no need to search for products on a website. Once the customer clicks on a post or video, it should go straight to checkout once they've gone, yeah, I want to buy. Our next digital trend that we see coming up for 2020 is subscription-based services. So I think the world as a whole has moved to a much more subscription-based. People are very used to it. Think Netflix. Quite a lot of people have Netflix. If they don't have Netflix, they have Neon or some of the other ones available in New Zealand. And that, I mean, essentially this was what Sky is anyway, okay? But it's just become more modernized, and in a way people are able to consume it easier, which is streaming online compared to having to have a satellite and a box with and get it installed. So this could mean exclusive access to products and services will be even more popular in 2021 than in 2020, as one can avail a monthly subscription for them. The ease of purchasing products or services on a monthly basis without having to do so manually every so often is very beneficial to both companies and consumers. It also helps to establish a long-term relationship between the two parties. So things I've seen popping up recently, probably because I just got a kitten, I've been getting, sign up for a monthly subscription for your pet food. And I'm like, hey, that's so easy. Everything would just get delivered and I'd not have to go food shopping, which is something I don't enjoy too much of. So lots of those sort of subscription-based models are starting to come into businesses a lot more.
Yeah, and so we've seen some really successful businesses adopt a subscription model, like everything from toothbrushes and what was the other one? There was even underwear that you can get on subscription. I know I've got a subscription for my coffee beans, which get delivered every couple of weeks, which is awesome. So like what it does is it takes a purchasing choice that needs to be actively made on a regular basis and turns it into something that just gets made once, like a purchasing decision gets made once, and then it just happens and recurs without that consumer having to go through the process of making a decision again and buying it. And so by doing that, you're actually building recurring revenue within the business, and that's incredibly powerful. It's something that just you start each month having already made some sales from your subscription customers. So I think that this is just a phenomenal area that most businesses should be really sitting down and trying to evaluate how they can adopt this sort of selling model for their products and services, because the benefits are just phenomenal. So yeah, I just wanted to highlight that because I think it's probably not just, it's a trend that's been coming along for a while. If more businesses could adopt this in 2021, that it'd help stabilize revenue as well, which is awesome.
Definitely. And I think you've got to think that someone can join this cycle at any time. So for me, I'm a bit of a latecomer to the Netflix party. I was actually quite anti the idea of it, and sort of went, well, we also didn't have TV, so we were used to not watching TV because we didn't have the aerial to get it. So we just kind of went, cool, we don't have TV, we'll just, make do, and also we play games. But in the end, we sort of got to a lull during lockdown, and it got to a point and we signed up for Netflix, and now we have it. And it's one of those things where I'm like, we're basically, the cost isn't too much. We're not noticing it affect anything. It certainly would be something I cut off if I had to. But also we kind of go, well, we watch a movie on Netflix. If we go to the movies, that's, $40, $50, whereas the Netflix subscription is just a small amount of that, and we get an access to a whole lot more as well. So it just makes it easy for us. So yeah.
I just remembered another example of a subscription business that you wouldn't normally think of. So for a very good friend of mine, he's a fashion designer actually, and so he's got a new service which is fashion as a service, and he has people pay a monthly subscription, and he has all their sizes and measurements, and he just sends them out new creations every month, and just improves their wardrobe. And I thought, what a great idea. Yeah. So so it's not even businesses that you'd normally think about it from a subscription point of view can adopt this sort of selling technique. So
definitely, no, that's really cool, and always good to share those ideas because it'll get other people thinking as well. So another digital trend we see is non-targeted advertising. So more often than not, we think of targeted ads as the ones that lead to conversion, but that's usually not the case. So a Dutch newspaper reportedly ran an experiment that eventually showed that profits from non-targeted advertising were higher than ones from targeted ones. So non-targeted ads will give your products and services the needed exposure to visitors who may not be aware of them but may still be interested. So it's that whole, real top of the funnel, just getting people aware. And the more you do that, the more when they actually come round to be ready to buy, they obviously come down that funnel, and they'll go, oh yeah, I saw that, I a couple of months ago. Let's go check that out. So it is just building that awareness, and it's one that can help quite easily. So another digital trend we see as well is reinvented tracking. So, we're looking at ad campaigns must be tracked to make sure you're balancing the cost versus profit ratio. I know that a few times this year we've heard of people who didn't really know this within their campaigns. So it's always important to look at this because it's that return on investment you need to be tracking. And though Facebook and Google Ads already have a tracking platform as well, we do need a new ad tracking platform. And as the COVID-19 pandemic is expected to remain as a challenge in 2021, in particular outside of New Zealand, which still affects us, businesses must be wiser in ad spending by ensuring that every dollar spent on ads must get the needed value or return of investment. So, for those that are doing it themselves, you could take the break to sort of learn more about what you're doing. And if you're still not really getting the results, it might be a good idea to talk to an expert to make sure that your ads are tracking appropriately, and that you are getting that return on investment you need. Like I said before, I know we've had people who have come to us and just gone, well, I've done AdWords before, I don't want to do it again because I just wasted a whole lot of money. And that's, quite a sad scenario, because you can get AdWords working right for you.
Correct. Yeah, and I think if one thing to point out here is that if you get the right tracking platform and the right what we call attribution of value to each of the different parts in the conversion process, you can actually understand what really is working for your business. And if we think about that slide previously where they were talking about like branding and awareness to people that are not necessarily targeted, if you've got what's called attribution running correctly, then you can place value on those initial connections with people that may not have been aware of your brand, and giving that some value as part of the whole process through to buying is really important. If you use a traditional reporting system, which gives all the value to the last click or the last reason why someone went to your website and bought, you might be missing out on some really important information about how people start to interact with your brand. And so creating that right tracking model, and attributing the value to different parts along that conversion process can have a really amazing impact on your business, because you can understand how people start to interact with you. Just as an example, a whole bunch of people might see a YouTube ad for your or a YouTube video for your product, but they won't necessarily buy straight away. They might watch the video and then a couple of weeks later do a Google search and click on an ad and buy your product. If you don't have the right attribution model, you may say that AdWords is doing all the heavy lifting and creating all the sales, and miss out on the fact that there's this other starting point that's actually creating the initial engagement and is actually leading to a lot of sales down the track. So having that model set up correctly is really important, and sometimes engaging an expert to get that set up and get the attribution right is really valuable.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I guess the next trend I'm actually really excited about, because I fully agree with this trend. And I can say it's one that's kind of already in place, but I think a lot more businesses need to adopt it. And it's good old loyalty. So it's still a big deal. And basically what you're trying to achieve here is you're giving people a reason to come back. So, like people get a coffee card, they get a few stamps on it. So then they keep going and buying coffee, because eventually they'll get one for free, or they'll get a muffin or something with it. And for me, I just love this one. So brands do need to look for ways to not just exist, but to also keep a long-lasting relationship with the client. And I think this is one bit that helps with that. So rewarding loyal patrons is a good move to maintain a great relationship with them. So think, I know our Zest platform has it, and I know there's plugins and extensions for other platforms, but loyalty points is a simple way to do it. So spend X amount, get X loyalty points, which then equates to X dollars. I am someone who shops at NZ Muscle, and I get loyalty points from them all the time, which actually just next time I need to go and make the purchase, because again, it's protein powder, so you purchase it a few times during the year. Every odd one, I actually get, $5 off, $10 off. And that to me is great, because, hey, that was $5 or $10 I've saved just because I keep shopping with the same person. And that to me just makes it so easy and makes that decision really easy. I think the only thing that would disrupt that is if I had an extremely bad experience with them. But, I'm not getting that. I'm having a good experience, website's easy to use, and I'm getting loyalty points for it. So you're rewarding me, and I like rewards.
So makes your customers a little bit stickier as well. So they just keep coming back. They've got a reason to keep coming back and using you, and that's critical, right? So I'm a big fan of loyalty programs as well.
And then, and the third to last trend, social media marketing. So the Digital 2020 report for New Zealand, and that was published via datareportal.com, bet that 3.60 million social media users in New Zealand as of January 2020. So we know social media is here to stay. We've got new platforms popping up all the time. Some succeed, some don't, but as they do, obviously it just creates another avenue for social media. The number of social medias in New Zealand increased by 3,000. I can't say that. 123,000. There we go. So that's up 3.5% between April 2019 and January 2020. So although that looks like a little percentage, that's actually massive, because that's another 123,000 people that you could be targeting or would want to know about your product or service. And that's a very short time gap, actually. And I would say that once we get one for maybe March to December this year, we'll probably see that skyrocket as people got bored over lockdown and started. And I know TikTok became quite famous over lockdown because it gave people something to do. So that's what we're looking at.
What was the other one that popped up over lockdown? Was it House Party? Did that pop up for a little while?
House Party,
That was hilarious.
yeah.
I haven't seen it again much since, but yeah, anyway.
Definitely. So yeah, social media penetration in New Zealand stood at 75% in January 2020. So again, that's massive. 3/4 of the market are on it. If you're not on it, I mean, you're missing out. And that's clearly what that states here. And then social media has scaled e-commerce in 2020 and is expected to even continue to make its presence felt in 2021, being the only platform that can reach existing and potential customers very easily. And I think as part of that as well, you're starting to see some changes in some social media platforms, but only for overseas at the moment. So Facebook and in America have released Facebook shops, which allows you to actually kind of have your own mini store on Facebook. We have, you have the ability to post and purchase now, but it's a different setup. And so they're trialing that at the moment. And again, over the next couple of years, we'll only see that be rolled out as it's refined.
Yeah, and with that, in terms of a trend, I think it's really important, especially customers that have got e-commerce sites, start to look at how they can get their products syndicated. And so that's essentially getting feeds of their products into these other platforms so they can take advantage of different stores and things like that in social media, but they have it all aggregated from one product set, which is managed out of their e-commerce site. So then you can supplement sales by getting into these spaces as well. But having one unified product set that publishes from a single place is a really important step. Otherwise, things can get quite fragmented and difficult to manage. So that's I see this increasing a lot in 2021, but those that do it well will be those that use product syndication as a technique to manage it.
Definitely agree. And there's a few things out there that will be able to help you with that as well. So always talk to someone if you're not quite sure where to look. Now the next one is marketing automation. So this is, automating your marketing. So it's already gained popularity, but next year it will start leveling up, we feel. The reason for this prediction is more and more people are coming online, and a lot of them are small to medium businesses where you are potentially the owner and the marketing manager. So when you're doing it all, you will look at ways to try and simplify this, and automation is a way to do that. And it does range, like it can be something quite simple and some quite cheap, but it can range up to something quite expensive, but it just depends on the complexity that you need. So it is more cost effective in the long run, because marketing automation process that can boost and customize campaigns, track scoring and results as well. So this is definitely something that's going to come around more and more, and it's going to be something that will save you time, but it's depending on where that investment sits for you and your business.
Yeah, so this is something that's kind of, I think, is going to be really unlocked in 2021, right? So the big driving factor that I can see here around marketing automation is cost. Right. So if you go back 3 or 4 years ago, there were big firms with lots of data, and they could afford to deploy some quite chunky systems that cost like thousands of dollars a month to run their marketing automation systems. So getting something massive configured like a Marketo or a HubSpot system, now those were the domain of some quite large firms. Now the costs of those systems and the number of systems that provide this sort of service like marketing automation has meant that the cost has started to come down quite significantly for these, and made marketing automation now accessible accessible to small to medium businesses. And so I think that's the thing that we didn't have really. If we go back at the start of 2020, it was still on the cusp of that. I think 2021, we're going to see real those businesses that adopt this do very, very well, because there's some amazing results you can get out of automating your marketing. And by that, we kind of mean like essentially like creating little customer sets and having personalized messages to people based on their buying trends and data. You can actually create real personalized experiences with this sort of technology that helps increase sales and maximizes your return from your customer database or customer set. And so I think this is huge, but the big driver here is that it's now become so much more cost affordable, I should say. So.
Yeah, and again, there's a lot of different strategies with this as well. You don't have to just go to a full-blown strategy.
Yes.
I think the most common marketing automation I see is people installing their abandoned cart process. So when someone leaves something in the cart, it automatically gets marketing out to them in the terms of an email. I'm going, hey, you left this in the cart, maybe an hour or two later, and then maybe a follow-up a day or two later. And then at the same time, they're probably on a list for remarketing advertising if you're doing that as well. So I know it worked for me.
No, but you did it.
Yeah, well, I kind of see this is where I secretly knew they had it. So I actually waited for the email to get 10% off my order. So
nice. Well done. Well done.
Yeah. So, but consumers will start wanting that. That's the thing. Like they start getting it from other people, so they start wanting it from others. And it's one of those things where you have to look at what your neighboring businesses are doing and start going, I need to do that, or I need to do something better than that. And it is that competition that comes from running a business.
The other simple marketing automation one that I see works really well. It's so simple, you probably will come across it. It's just that you're about to leave a site and it just says, hey, would you like a coupon for your email address or something like that? So you're creating a little bit of a swap for an email address to put them into a marketing database, but then you automate emailing them a coupon which they can use for their next purchase. And it's so simple. There's lots of sites that do it, but it works, right?
Definitely. And then the last one we have is a digital trend, which I think will start being talked about a lot more in 2021, is voice search. So that's the likes of Alexa, Siri, or Cortana have made searching more locally customized and far more convenient than the usual Google search. So, a lot of people have in their homes an Alexa or their phone, and they just go, hey, Alexa, play this or do that. I, for one, don't, so I don't really know all the ins and outs of this, but it's certainly something that's coming up. And, I see it a lot more with, the kids are using it a lot more. I know when my niece and nephew come to say they're sort of using their voice chat on their phone, and I'm like, okay, you're more advanced than me. So this will then in turn, voice search technology provides a unique opportunity for market growth as it is eyed to gain more popularity in 2021 and onwards. And I think you can use it as part of your SEO. I know it's still early adoption days for people, but people have started using voice search for their SEO and improving what that looks like too.
Yeah, so like this for me, the voice search is the big disruptor of this decade that we've just come into. If we look at the last decade, it was mobile phones, like totally changed the way people interacted online. This is the big disruptor for the next 10 years, and I think we'll start to see the makings of this succeed. So this will start succeeding for people in 2021. The reason being is I've got all my boys. I've got a 10-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 4-year-old. Their first experience with Google is talking to a smart speaker and asking it questions and getting answers. All right. And so in that environment, when people do a search using voice search, you only get one result. All right. And so that first result becomes even more critical. But the good thing is that it's not going to be just a traditional search, which is a keyword plus location. It's going to be a whole question. There's a whole lot of natural language that starts to come into play. So understanding those questions that people will be asking before they buy a product like yours and making sure you're the number one for that question is going to become absolutely critical in 2021 and beyond. So.
Definitely. So that wraps up where we are for what we feel prediction-wise will be popular next year. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to fire them through.
Thanks, Lisa and Jara. I really appreciate that. If you just want to stop your share there, Lisa, we'll just have a bit of a discussion maybe while we see if anyone's got any questions. But my first question was really a little bit related to something that you brought up, Jara. I think you talked about how a lot of people went to get online when we went into lockdown level 4. And we actually tried to help a lot of them. But what we've seen now is that a lot of them have actually gone back and aren't using their websites, or gone back to because their shop's open, what's the danger in that, do you see, as we come into this new year?
I think there's two parts here, right? So there's a danger in thinking that I've got an e-commerce store, so I'm done, right? And if I don't get a result out of it, that's all I'm going to get out of it, and then just going back to doing what you always did. Because the getting an e-commerce store is just the first part. You've got to look at these marketing automation things we talked about. You've got to look at how you market the store. And so the first danger there is you're missing a massive opportunity. If you've gone and got over that hump, that hurdle, and got an e-commerce store online, but then don't feed it or don't fuel it and don't get it to do what it can do, then you're missing out on a massive opportunity. And I understand that people are busy, they go back to doing what they've always done, but I see that as your first real big danger, is that you're missing that opportunity. And then second, COVID-19 is not gone yet, right? We're still getting incursions all the time. It's being stopped at the border. There's been some scary little things happen in the last couple of weeks to months where it looked like it might have escaped again, and we've managed to get a lid on it. We cannot guarantee that we're not going to go into some sort of lockdown or some sort of restriction again. And so if you have to then go back and scramble and get your website up to date and get everything sorted and be really reactive to anything like that happens, you're going to miss another opportunity, and it's going to create more of what I was talking about before, which is that digital divide. All right. So you've got those businesses right now that have adopted digital commerce and that are fueling it. They've got the right advertising programs. They're doing AdWords, and they are just doing so well right now. They're doing better than they ever have before. And so I really challenge those businesses that have gone through that really tough bit to get an e-commerce store online or get a website sorted, to then take that next step and start fueling it and start treating it as a proper sales channel. I think you'll be surprised at what you get out of it.
I think too. Thank you, Jared. But I was just thinking that also as a consumer, my behaviors have changed.
Yes.
And so I don't go down and get my coffee as much as I used to.
Yeah.
So you might have had and you might still have a really loyal, local, supportive place that people are coming to. But can you guarantee that's going to be the same next year? Even let's say COVID doesn't come back and we don't have to go into lockdowns. I think as consumers, our behaviors are changing, and they're changing permanently.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah, I think it goes back to what I said earlier, where, COVID hasn't made this happen. COVID's just advanced it happening. So, and Jara, you gave the stats around it. What we saw was in 4 to 5 years happen in about 6 months. So it's something that everyone's going to need to move towards. And you need to start thinking about it like another task. Oh, this is something extra I have to do. What it is it's another revenue stream. And just because you might not be seeing the results on it, and I know there's been a few clients like this over the past few months, they've not seen orders coming through the site, or they've not seen the inquiries through the site, but what they have seen is people browsing, realizing that they have what they want there, and then going into the store and buying it. So it's actually getting more foot traffic through as well. So again, I mean, it's hard. Online is easy. You can actually track what people are doing and where they're coming from, what it ends up on in terms of a conversion. But what you can't track is if they're then coming into the store, unless you're someone who makes sure everyone fills out a survey of how they found out about you. So yeah, I think it's important to start thinking of it as another revenue stream, and then start moving your mindset and your business mindset and plans towards incorporating it into your day-to-day business.
Thanks, guys. Just before we finish, I thought maybe we'll just give you a chance to tell us what your top prediction is, or trend that you're seeing, that you see for this next year.
I'll go
Would
first.
you like me? Okay,
yeah, sorry, quite over it. Lisa first.
So we didn't talk about it today, but I do think video is just going to continue to advance. So this is having your adverts be videos, and they only have to be 30 seconds, and they don't even have to have you talking or like be, that. invigorating. It just needs to be like a video for someone to watch, because it's amazing that how I guess everyone has turned towards their phones, and they're using their phones while they're watching TV and they're watching ads on their phones. I think it's just important to realize that that's what people want to do, in particular ones with captions, because they tend not to listen to it. But that's still something that I think is going to grow very rapidly in 2021, because we're just using that service a lot more.
Yeah, and we've got a webinar all on that too, and I think we've got another one coming up that's probably a bit more practical based in January or February, I think it is, but keep an eye on our website for details on that.
Yeah.
Jara.
Awesome. So my big tip for 2021 is, we've kind of covered it a little bit, and that is voice search. I think that is just, it's the devices that can access search via voice activation are just proliferating and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I've kind of covered a bit of that previously. So if you're looking to try and get into that space, then my suggestion to you is to start trying to ask and answer questions that your customers may be asking as part of their buying process, and then you can start to post those onto your website with what's called schema or markup, and that will allow search engines to see that you have a question and an answer, and that will allow you to start competing for those voice search results. But the other big prediction is product syndication. So I touched on that as well. I think that what you're seeing is all of these big platforms are starting to adopt online commerce. So Facebook and Instagram and all of these big platforms, they're doing it directly within their platforms. You've got the market that's launched here in New Zealand and started to really get some traction this year as well. And so having a strategy to syndicate your product set from your e-commerce store into all of these places that people are shopping is going to increase your reach and obviously increase your ability to generate revenue from lots of different places. But ultimately, having that really well organized with a product feed coming out of a main e-commerce site is the way to do it. And so I think that we'll see some really good results for businesses using that technique in 2021.
Thank you. I'm going to give two.
Yes.
And mine are kind of from a consumer perspective or a spender, kind of perspective. One is sustainable options. I really think that is driving my spending a lot more, and I can see it being a bigger force in the new year for people spending, that if they've got two comparable products, they're going to more likely to choose the sustainable option. So to compete in that space, I think is worthwhile looking to see if you can develop your products into that area.
Definitely. I was just going to add, because we saw the change with us removing plastic bags from supermarkets and all of that, and it's continuing. And Jacinda announced around climate change yesterday, I think it was, and how we're going to start moving as a country towards that too. So fully agree with you there, Rhonda.
Thanks. And there's a webinar actually that we did last week on that, about a market leader that's really moving in that area. Have a look at our webinar library. But the other area, I think, and Lisa, you mentioned this before, is I will buy online and then I like to pick up, especially if I know I'm buying from a local shop, but it just makes things, I'm busy. I don't like to spend a lot of time in traffic. And also, so if I can pick it up at my convenience, that's a trend as well, I think, that people will look to. Yeah.
Definitely
awesome.
agree there.
Well, thanks for your comments, guys. We're just going to go into a bit of a roundup. So what we know is how people buy and how businesses sell has radically transformed since March 2020. There is an opportunity to adopt a digital first mindset and get your business online. And it is our prediction that businesses who provide their customers multiple ways to browse and buy will see an increase in their revenue. It's our recommendation, as always, take the first step or the next step. If you aren't online, get online. If you have a website, how are you marketing it? If you are marketing your website, what's your 2021 marketing plan looking like? It's a bit like that saying, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And it's just identifying what your next move is. If you aren't sure on what to do first or next, talk with an expert to assist you in your digital transformation. Zeald has helped over 15,000 businesses transform digitally over the last 20 years, and we provide a free strategy or website audit session with our team of experienced digital business strategists. During COVID, the very first level 4 lockdown, we launched our Get Ecommerce movement to help Kiwi businesses get online as soon as possible. And as you've heard, we still feel it's the main thing that businesses need to do is to get online. So go to zeald.com for more details on how to get a free e-commerce website. Our next webinar will be on January the 27th at 10 a.m. and I'm sure it's going to fly by and will be in January in no time. The topic is how to create a digital marketing calendar for 2021. So obviously it will be really timely to kick off the new year with a plan on how you're going to do your digital marketing. We have a library of our webinars full of great helpful content at zeald.com. So look them up and watch them. Spend some time over the holiday break, just reading things, get inspired on how to set your business goals for the new year. I want to give a really special thanks to Lisa and Jara. I really appreciate your valuable insights.
Thanks, Rhonda.
Thanks, Rhonda.
And I wish you all a happy and safe holiday season and look forward to seeing you all in the new year. Take care.
Bye.